Market Mantra. Market Mantra. Market Mantra. Market Mantra. Market Mantra. Market Mantra.
This is All India Radio. Good evening and welcome to this edition of Market Mantra, in which we give you a complete update on the economic, business and stock market news of the day. I am Gaurang Dhawanlal and with me is my co-anchor in Hindi, Vishal Sharma.
नमस्कार। कार्यक्रम मार्केट मंत्र में आप सभी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत। प्रतिदिन की तरह आज भी हम देश और दुनिया से आर्थिक, व्यापारिक और शेयर बाजार के ताजा समाचार आप तक लाएंगे और उन पर चर्चा भी करेंगे। चर्चा के लिए आज स्टूडियो में आमंत्रित हैं आर्थिक विश्लेषक जयंता दास। जयंता दास, नमस्कार। मार्केट मंत्र में आपका स्वागत।
शुक्रिया।
और सबसे पहले हेडलाइंस के साथ है गौरा धवनलाल।
Thank you, Vishal, and welcome, Mr. Jayanta Das. A quick look at the headlines. Key domestic indices witnessed modest gains. Sensex closes near the 62,000 mark. Nifty settles above 18,400 points. Gold prices hit 53,000 per 10 gram level for December contracts at the MCX, and Brent crude prices rise to trade at $94 per barrel.
प्रमुख घरेलू शेयर बाजारों में मामूली बढ़त। सेंसेक्स 62,000 के करीब हुआ बंद। निफ्टी ने 18,400 का स्तर किया पार। मल्टी कमोडिटी एक्सचेंज में प्रति 10 ग्राम सोने की कीमत 53,000 के स्तर पर पहुंची और ब्रेंट कच्चे तेल की कीमतें $94 प्रति बैरल के आसपास। शुरुआत शेयर बाजार से। वैश्विक शेयर बाजारों से मिले जुले संकेतों के बीच प्रमुख घरेलू शेयर बाजारों में आज मामूली तेजी रही। सेंसेक्स 62,000 के नजदीक, जबकि निफ्टी 18,400 के ऊपर बंद हुआ। बॉम्बे स्टॉक एक्सचेंज का सेंसेक्स 0.17% की वृद्धि से 108 अंक बढ़कर 61,981 पर बंद हुआ। नेशनल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज का निफ्टी 6 अंक की मामूली बढ़त से 0.03% ऊपर 18,410 पर पहुंच गया। व्यापक बाजार का प्रदर्शन आज कमजोर रहा। बीएसई मिड कैप इंडेक्स 0.66% और स्मॉल कैप इंडेक्स 0.34% की गिरावट में रहे।
Key domestic indices today witnessed marginal gains. Both indices rose amid mixed cues from global share markets. The Sensex closed near the 62,000 mark, while the Nifty settled above the 18,400 level. The Sensex climbed 108 points or 0.17% to close at 61,981. The Nifty also added 6 points or 0.03% to end at 18,410. In the broader market at the BSE, underperforming the Sensex, the mid-cap index declined 0.66%, while the small cap index fell 0.34%. In the Sensex pack, 17 companies posted gains, while 13 logged losses. Kotak Bank was the top gainer, as it added 2.7%, followed by Dr. Reddy's Lab and Hindustan Unilever. Both surged 0.9% each. Sun Pharma added 0.8%. On the other hand, Bajaj Finance declined 1.9%, Tata Steel fell 1.8%, NTPC and Bajaj Finserv slipped 1.2% each. In sectoral indices at the BSE, 7 sectors logged gains while 12 logged losses. BankX climbed 0.5%, industrial and capital goods both gained 0.4% each. The tech sector added 0.3%. On the other side, metal index declined 1.5%, utilities sector declined 1.4%, power index fell 1.3%, and capital goods sector slipped 1.1%. The overall breadth of the BSE trade was negative, as shares of 1,387 companies gained, while 2,150 fell. Shares of 101 companies remained unchanged.
और शेयर बाजार के बारे में ज्यादा बात करने के लिए हमारे साथ मुंबई से फोन लाइन पर जुड़ गए हैं बाजार विश्लेषक अविनाश गोरक्षकर। गोरक्षकर जी, जी, लगता है गोरक्षकर जी से हमारा संपर्क अभी नहीं हो पा रहा है। हम बात करेंगे अपने स्टूडियो में मौजूद विशेषज्ञ जयंता दास से। सबसे पहले जयंता, आज हम शेयर बाजार की बात करें तो मामूली बढ़त जरूर रही है और लगभग 62,000 के आसपास बंद हुआ है, लेकिन आज बाजार ने 52 वीक का नया हाई भी बनाया, 62,052 तक भी पहुंचा। शेयर बाजार की अगले आने वाले सप्ताहों में अब क्या देख रहे हैं?
देखिए, रैली काफी अच्छा है और जैसे मैंने पहले भी पिछले हफ्ता भी शायद मैंने कहा कि 60,000 के ऊपर कोई भी अंक में अगर बरकरार रहता है सेंसेक्स का स्तर, थोड़ा बहुत मार्केट में अलग से कॉन्फिडेंस कहीं ना कहीं से वापस आएगा। लेकिन ग्लोबल हेडविंड जो है वो उतना अच्छा नहीं है और ये ध्यान रखते हुए हमें ये समझना है, जैसे आईटी क्षेत्र में, विश्व भर का आईटी क्षेत्र में बड़े बड़े जो सिलिकॉन वैली कंपनीज है जहां पे लोगों का नौकरी जिस तरह से जा रहा है मार्केट का हाल देखते हुए, तो ये सारे बहुत बड़ा सिग्नल्स होता है कि ये रैली कब तक चलते रहेंगे और किस उम्मीद तक कहां तक आगे बढ़ता रहेगा। तो वो एक मतलब अनिश्चयता जरूर मार्केट में बरकरार रहेंगे और शायद इस रैली को वहां पे कहीं ना कहीं जाके एक करेक्शन या डीप करेक्शन हम देख सकते हैं आगे जाके।
So we are happy to share with our listeners. We now have Avinash Gorakshakar ji online. Avinash ji, welcome to the program.
Yeah, good evening.
Avinash ji?
Yeah, good evening. I can hear you.
Welcome to the program. Right. So today we saw that, the mid cap and the small cap. So the market is by and large, I think, keeping a steady, marginal ups and downs, but by and large the look is optimistic. So what do you really feel is, in terms of the sectoral indices, we see that the mid and the small have marginally declined. Is this an indication of a trend?
I think today's markets were in a very close range, although in the second half,
Okay, there is a connectivity issue. We will try and get him online again and be back, listeners. Meanwhile, coming to you, Jayanta, the same question in terms of sectoral indices. So do you think this is a trend? Because mid and small are showing slacking, and we've actually had huge gains in the past 1 year. Even when the market was down, I think mid cap index
they did really well. So as I said, despite if not the euphoria, at least the excitement of having 62,000 levels at this point of time. And many of the stocks in the financial sector, even in the mid caps, have reached their 52-week high and over the last 2-3 days, 4 days and all.
Right.
So there would be, I guess we should be discussing at this point of time from here where on, because there is a Christmas rally around 4 weeks ahead now and all those stuff. But unfortunately, as I said, I am a bit pessimist over here, given the type of news which is filtering all over in terms of how the global markets are panning up. So I'll not be shocked or surprised if we have somewhere a correction setting in. So I don't see a huge tailwind from here onwards. But if the markets are able to maintain even at 60,000 levels for the next 4 to 6 weeks, I would really stand up and salute the market in terms of how it's performing, despite all those headwinds happening.
Right. We have reconnected with Avinash ji. Avinash ji, can you hear us better now?
yeah.
Okay, great. So Avinash ji, Jayanta just spoke about the possibility of, I know there is optimism, especially in our country, but of a correction. That is one. And the second point is, what are your views on a possible correction? And secondly, when we talk of a correction, we see that there is a shift in where the correction is happening. So the market corrects, but it's really not reflective of how other shares and sectoral shares are behaving. So where do you see this moving?
No, I think, as I was mentioning to you earlier, that, markets are finding that further going upwards, there is some exhaustion seen.
Right.
So my sense is that, at this time, investors need to be a little cautious, because for a long time, correction has not happened in a significant manner. You could see a little bit of correction on the large caps and on the mid caps, and I think the FI numbers have also been slightly weak for the last, couple of weeks. I would be surprised, if this market continues to go up, considering the fact that, last Friday the markets went up significantly after US CPI data came in. But then thereafter, for the next 2 to 3 days, the markets have remained more or less flat. So I think, in my sense is also of the opinion that, it could be a right time to be a slightly, on the sidelines. Although there are some good mid caps and large cap companies available, the global picture is slightly, shaky. We could see a little bit of pressure from the US markets. And with, the Russia-Ukraine problem now escalating to Poland, I would believe that, whatever happens across the weekend on this particular issue is definitely going to cast a little bit of problems for the global market. So I think it's better to be a little cautious now. I think one needs to keep the cash ready. Whenever the correction does happen, I think that would be a good time to accumulate quality business.
Right. So, just your suggestion on this, Avinashji, so when the correction happens, does one look at shares that are correcting and moving up and down, or use this to actually invest in shares for the longer term?
Yeah, I think clearly, sectors like automotive, auto components, capital goods, these are the sectors where I would believe that if there is a meaningful correction, then that should be used as an opportunity to accumulate, companies across this sector. I mean, we are very positive on companies like Larsen & Toubro, Mahindra & Mahindra. So these are companies where possibly some buying could be done, but I think for a retail investor, he should, follow SIP approach. He should not invest everything at one point of time, because the correction would give you an opportunity to buy these kind of stocks on, market decline. So I think rather than putting all his money in lump sum, one should be a little cautious, and even if one were to buy, one should buy it, in installments.
So what we're understanding is that caution in terms of the amount of investment that you're doing. So do it slowly while waiting and watching. And the second is also cautious in terms of which sectors or which companies you're investing in. That's important.
Yeah, exactly. I think that is the key point, because today, unfortunately, in the market, most of these mid caps or the larger set of companies have now started commanding valuations which are quite expensive. So I think although the earnings trajectory is going to be solid, what happens in the second half on the global front, especially, if you look at the fact that Indian exports have now underperformed, the rupee is weakened, we would be looking at a higher fiscal deficit. So I think now investors need to be very selective when they want to buy stocks, in the current market environment.
जी, गोरक्षकर जी, आज बैंकेक्स 0.5% चढ़ा है, और बैंकिंग शेयरों को लेकर के, खासतौर पर पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स को लेकर के आपका क्या नजरिया है आने वाले कुछ सप्ताहों के लिए?
देखिए, पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स में हमने बहुत बड़ी तेजी देखी है, और ये नंबर्स पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक्स के आ गए, वो प्योरली इसको सिग्निफाई करते हैं कि नंबर्स में काफी अच्छी बढ़त देखने को मिली है. सारे पब्लिक सेक्टर बैंक जैसे बैंक ऑफ बड़ौदा है, SBI है, कैनरा बैंक है, ये सारे बैंकों ने नंबर्स बहुत अच्छे दिखाए, लेकिन ऑलरेडी ये सारा कुछ प्राइस में फैक्टर्ड इन है. तो हमको लग रहा है कि आने वाले 1 या 2 हफ्ते में आपको थोड़ा सा सावधान होना चाहिए. हो सकता है कि थोड़ी बहुत मॉडरेटली प्रॉफिट बुकिंग या बिकवाली आपको देखने को मिले, लेकिन एक बात क्लियर है कि जिनको इन्वेस्टमेंट करना है, ये इनके लिए अच्छा मौका है. ट्रेडिंग के लिए शायद ये नहीं होगा, लेकिन इन्वेस्टमेंट के लिए अगर कोई खरीदना चाहे तो सरकारी बैंकों में मुझे लग रहा है कि अभी पुराने एसेट क्वालिटी के इश्यूज निकल गए हैं, और सारे बैंक अभी ग्रोथ की बात कर रहे हैं. क्रेडिट ग्रोथ की 17-18% है, तो ये डेफिनेटली बैंकों के लिए अच्छी बात है, और ये इनके शेयरों के लिए अगले 6 से 12 महीने के लिए निवेश के अच्छे मौके देंगे.
राइट. Avinash, in terms of when we look at investor confidence, do you see this as a continuing trend? Of course, corrections will be there, up and down, volatility will be in the market. But do you think investor confidence, even at the international level, is strong in the Indian market?
Yeah, I think investor confidence continues to be positive, and I think this is very well reflected from the fact that now retail money is, entering the markets in a big way. By that I mean that almost 13,000 crores of SIP money comes every month, and that is probably the reason even when FIs sell, there's a lot of buying done by local institutions. So I think as long as the retail SIP money comes and there are no interruptions, the confidence of investors will continue. And I think that is probably one of the most important things which we have learned in this rally, that FIs are not now important. I think it's the retail and the SIP kind of fund which has actually provided a big push. So confidence will continue to be there, but I think one has to be extremely cautious. Markets would be volatile and would see a lot of swings both on the upside and downside.
जी, गोरक्षकर जी, समय निकालने और हमसे बात करने के लिए आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद. और अब रुख करते हैं एशियाई शेयर बाजारों का. अधिकतर एशियाई शेयर बाजारों में आज गिरावट रही. हालांकि जापान का निकेई सूचकांक 0.1% की मामूली बढ़त में रहा. हांगकांग के हैंग सेंग और चीन के शंघाई कंपोजिट इंडेक्स में 0.5% की गिरावट दर्ज हुई. सिंगापुर का स्ट्रेट्स टाइम्स इंडेक्स 0.3% लुढ़क गया, और दक्षिण कोरिया के कोस्पी में 0.1% की मामूली नुकसान देखा गया. यूरोपीय क्षेत्र की बात करें तो अंतर्दिवसीय कारोबार में यहां भी गिरावट का रुख था। लंदन का FTSE 100 0.1% फिसल गया, फ्रांस का कैक 0.6% और जर्मनी का डेक्स 0.9% की गिरावट में चल रहे थे।
Coming here, Jayanta, when we look at the international markets and we look at our market, so somewhere there are some common factors where they move together.
Yep.
But right now we are seeing that the movement invariably is not together. I think by the time a week or 5 days are over, by the time they make up.
Yep.
So do you think that's a trend we're going to continue to
No,
see?
I think this is just a short term,
Okay.
the differentials which you're speaking of. But overall, I guess by the time the calendar year ends, let's not forget, most of the Western European countries as well as the American companies, they end their calendar for the financial year in December. So there would be some sort of a settlement then, and then once again around January we'll get to see at least some sort of a synergy in terms of movement, if not an exact replication of how the stock markets would move up or down.
Right. So we're expecting that in December another Fed rate hike.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So that will affect it also?
No, I think it has been discounted already.
All
so
right.
now, if out of the blue Fed increases its rate hike, then what they were expecting, which I don't think they will do, because these are, I guess, now in the final stages of 2 quarters of further rate hikes. So in that sense, it has been discounted. So I don't think there will be much further caution in that sense.
Right. So this whole talk about inflation that
Yeah.
we've seen. So even in India, we're kind of managing to control it and then move in the
Absolutely.
other direction.
Absolutely.
Do you think internationally also this is happening? The rate hike has served its purpose?
See, in terms of controlling inflation and try to bring down, the huge demand surge which led to the further inflation, things like that. If they are able to slow it down, they have not put a break into it. Because it's just not a 3-month, 6-month affair to just control inflation, let it go.
Right.
It's at least 12 to 18 months affair in terms of understanding how the cycle is heading towards a downward spiral or towards an upward spiral in that sense. So, yes, the first job of at least trying to control the runaway inflation has been taken care of to some extent. What I do believe is these job cuts further would lead to some fall in demand. So there can be, a further downsize from here. But then, as I said, in California, this is just a start with, almost every single company shedding manpower. Now, the fear will be if it catches on like a virus across, the rest of the American markets and then maybe catches on to Europe in terms of job cuts and all, then it will be a serious cause of concern. Then we'll not be talking of just inflation, we might be talking of a stagflation, where we have inflation with high unemployment joined together, which is a much, much worse problem for any economy, to face. So those threatening factors can also be as a looming cloud in the existing scenario.
Okay. And how we are linked to the international market, our export and our imports. We've also seen that our exports have, I think for the first time, they've 16.6% contraction in October.
Absolutely.
Do you see this as a seasonal blip? Because our imports, they're becoming more costly. Our exports are falling because of inflation outside. So do you think this is a trend?
No, more than a trend, I think these structural adjustments will keep on happening over the next 3 to 4 months, if not till May, March 2023.
Right.
But certainly it's not just a blip. I think it's going to stay in terms of, how the whole export market pans up. So there's no doubt on that.
Right. And how do you think this will affect job creation within the country?
Obviously, it'll seriously put a dent in terms of how jobs are being created. But then governments all over at this point of time, for them a bigger focus is how to control inflation. So, job creation is a work in motion for any economy. So that's there. But as I said, you can't have a situation where there is a huge layoff of thousands and thousands of people in the Western markets. And let's not forget, wherever the layoffs have happened, starting from Meta to Twitter to Google or wherever they have happened, they have their filter down effects in Indian markets, because most of the Indian companies who are serving these markets in the Californian Valley, either they are serving as clients, or they are serving as vendors, or they have sent manpower there. So that particular sector, production of cars might not get affected in India, but that particular sector would have a dampening effect in that sense. So that's for sure.
So when you see a macro level, I know when jobs are created and industries are on the upswing, there is great happiness and purchasing power and all is coming. And now cutting of jobs is happening, layoffs are happening. Do you think that this is a trend that will get reversed in the same magnitude, or do you think that this will increase? I mean, this will change a little, but may not be to the same magnitude.
No, I think this will be a wild guess. I mean, no one knows for sure where it will hit on and how hard it will hit on. So I don't want to, take the risk of that wild guess over here. But then, as I said, job cuts are here to stay. The only thing is whether it spreads like wildfire or whether it, keeps on happening at various stages. So that's how, because as we all know, such sort of reactions has an effect both ways. Either in terms of, bringing a huge one-stroke sort of a fear in the economies around the world, where people all of a sudden wake up in the morning and realize thousands are losing jobs and let's not go do my buying, let me postpone my purchasing and things like that. So that sort of a reaction can also happen. Or it can also happen that people think that these companies in the last 6-7 months, when the demand was so high, they have, left and right hired people, and this is how the settling happens. So if you listen to when Facebook founder spoke to his employees through a video and all, that's what he spoke. I mean, I'm responsible for the health of the company. At the end of the day, the buck stops with him. So his decisions always will be based to see whether the company survives this particular crunch or not.
Because that's the basis for any future possibility of job opportunity.
Exactly. So that's how business leaders try to interpret and try to sugarcoat these decisions. But then, as I said, human behavior at the end of the day depends on how bad or how cornered they feel, and how cornered their neighbors are feeling, and whether the neighbors are reacting to that. Right. So, if a neighbor loses a job, I mean, if you remember in the mid-90s, and even by mid-90s, I think around 2004, 2005 period, when every single person was losing his job left and right in the US markets, people started getting scared. I mean, more than them losing the job, of a neighbor losing a job in the community was a big signal for everyone to just stop doing whatever they were doing.
Like it spreads like an...
Yeah, so those sorts of scare, are really harmful in the economy. So then it worsens and it becomes a severe domino spiral.
And they're unpredictable.
Exactly.
जी, जनता घरेलू आर्थिक परिदृश्य की बात करें तो जो अभी जो महंगाई के आंकड़े आए हैं हाल फिलहाल में ही, चाहे वो थोक मूल्य मुद्रास्फीति हो या फिर खुदरा मुद्रास्फीति हो, दोनों ही स्तर पर कमी दर्ज की गई है। ये कमी क्या बताती है? क्या हम अब महंगाई का जो एक बढ़ने का दौर था उससे हम बाहर निकल आए हैं? अब
नहीं, देखिए, लगातार ब्याज दर में वृद्धि होने की वजह से ऑब्वियसली एक कॉज एंड इफेक्ट तो होगा ही, तो इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है। लगातार आरबीआई की तरफ से भी एक स्ट्रिक्ट मॉनेटरी कंट्रोल का द्वारा कहीं न कहीं मुद्रास्फीति में काबू पाया गया है और वो हुआ है, तो इसमें कोई दो राय नहीं है। अब सवाल ये है कि किस हद तक हो पाए, ये विदेशी बाजारों के ऊपर निर्भर करता है, वहां पे क्या ओवरऑल रहता है। लेकिन सिर्फ इंडिया में नहीं, अगर ग्लोबली भी आप देखें, ज्यादातर देशों में इन्फ्लेशन कहीं ना कहीं जाके काबू तो नहीं हुआ, लेकिन जो जिस गति के साथ वृद्धि हो रहा था उसमें कहीं ना कहीं नरमी आया हुआ है। तो आई थिंक दैट्स अ गुड स्टार्ट। तो हमारा देश में भी इट्स अ गुड स्टार्ट, बिकॉज दिस इज अ वेरी बिजी सीजन फॉर द इकोनॉमी, एंड थोड़ा बहुत इन्फ्लेशन हमेशा हेल्दी होता है, बट ये थोड़ा रनअवे इन्फ्लेशन हो गया था। लेकिन ये जो मार्केट में ब्याज दर जो चल रहा है हम सबको पता है, और इंडस्ट्री के लिए ऑब्वियसली कॉस्ट ऑफ एनी प्रोजेक्ट करीबन 300 से 400 बेसिस पॉइंट का वृद्धि हुआ है। मार्केट में 13-14% जाके इंटरेस्ट जाके रुका है आज का बाजार में। तो ये स्थिति अब ये देखना पड़ेगा कि जनवरी फरवरी में जब हम शायद न्यूज के बारे में डिस्कस करेंगे तो वो इंडस्ट्री को मेजर तरह से हार्म कर सकता है। तो जैसे मैंने कहा कि साइकिल प्रेडिक्ट करना बहुत मुश्किल है, लेकिन कोई भी एक्शन अगर साइकिल में ज्यादा देर लंबा चलता है, खींचता है, तो उसका एक नेगेटिव इफेक्ट कहीं ना कहीं जाके प्रदर्शन होगा आपका घरेलू बाजार में भी,
और कहीं वो क्रॉनिक भी
बिल्कुल। सो देयर इज ऑलवेज अ चांस एंड देयर इज ऑलवेज अ रिस्क।
बढ़ती ब्याज दरों के अपने जोखिम
जी बिल्कुल। We'll take a quick look at the US markets and the oil prices. Wall Street's main indices rose yesterday after softer than expected inflation data that raised hopes of a pullback in rate hikes by the US Federal Reserve. The Dow Jones Industrial Average added 0.2%, the S&P 500 gained 0.9%, and the Nasdaq Composite Index climbed 1.5%. Oil prices today posted marginal gains, erasing early losses after a media report that a Liberian-flagged oil tanker was struck in an exploding drone attack off the Gulf of Oman. On the other hand, rising COVID-19 cases in China kept gains in a narrow range. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at $94 per barrel, while WTI crude prices were at $87.70 per barrel. During the oil prices, even with the Americans releasing their reserves and basically to cool down the market a little, So how long do you think before a natural scenario comes back where I think the distribution of oil, those checks and balances which people are putting in, those are removed and a more free exchange of currency and oil happens across?
Well, I don't think that's going to happen immediately. So,
Okay. Okay.
although what we believe at this point of time is Brent crude will be around 1995 levels to exist at this point of time. I don't see a huge surge all of a sudden because demand is certainly going to increase in the next 4 to 6 weeks in a manner to say that there will be shortage of oil and everything.
Right.
Having said that, we also have to see with winter settling in the Western Hemisphere. It's also important to understand how severe the winter is, and you all know around Jan-Feb there is a specific factor which affects oil also in those days, given the severity of the winters. So these factors put in together, I think I don't see a fact that it will be $100 plus spike unless some major geopolitical issue and all happens all of a sudden also.
Right. And when we talk of oil prices, I think comes back to the question when we spoke of our imports, and it has a huge impact. That means you're not for a long time not seeing our imports becoming cheaper?
I don't think so, because if not oil prices, I think the currency valuations will also take care somewhere down the track, because it's not something which is softening up, you all know. So
बात करते हैं कीमती धातुओं की। मल्टी कमोडिटी एक्सचेंज में दिसंबर के वायदा कारोबार में सोना 415 रुपए महंगा होकर 53,160 रुपए प्रति 10 ग्राम पर था। दिसंबर अनुबंध वाली चांदी 1,230 रुपए मजबूत होकर 62,820 रुपए प्रति किलो पर कारोबार कर रही थी। उधर न्यूयॉर्क मर्केंटाइल एक्सचेंज में सोना बढ़त के साथ $1,787.30 प्रति औंस पर था। हालांकि चांदी गिरावट के साथ $22.10 प्रति औंस पर कारोबार कर रही थी। जयंत दास, 53,000 के पार पहुंच गया है सोना और चांदी भी लगभग 63,000 के आसपास जा रही है। सोने में ये तेजी क्या बता रही है और क्या इसके पीछे वजह आप क्या मानते हैं? एक तो डॉलर इंडेक्स में थोड़ी सी कमजोरी,
बिल्कुल, एक तो वो है। दूसरी बात है ये सोने में जो तेजी है, मैं मानता हूं थोड़ा सा देर में आया है, बिकॉज हम उम्मीद कर रहे थे मई जून में जब इंटरेस्ट रेट कट काफी ज्यादा चल रहा था उसमें लोगों का शायद शिफ्टिंग होंगे, लेकिन हुए नहीं है। और लगातार पिछले 1 साल से हम लोग जब भी सोने के बारे में चर्चा करते हैं, हम यहाँ पे हमेशा श्रोताओं को हम लोग को बोलते रह गए कि भाई 49,000 50,000 में भी उम्मीद ना हारे, सोना फिर से कहीं ना कहीं वापस आएंगे और आपको रिटर्न्स भी देंगे। तो अच्छी बात है जिन्होंने निवेश किया इस वक्त। और घरेलू बाजार में आप सबको पता है ये फेस्टिवल सीजन है, तो उसका भी एक लोकल असर बेशक होता है डिमांड का तौर पर, जहां पे
शादियों का भी सीजन अब शुरू,
वही मैं जैसा बोला फेस्टिव सीजन, शादी का सीजन, तो उसमें भी एक थोड़ा बहुत इम्पैक्ट होने का दरों पर भी बेशक होते हैं।
Also now when we talk of, so this is a larger overview. You know, earlier I think instant gratification or instant results was not such a big thing. People would invest in real estate, in gold, and look at the long-term view.
Exactly.
And now I think because the people want a shorter turnaround time, they want to move their money faster, they want... So do you think there's a shift in investor?
In crypto, I mean, if people are making money in seconds, I mean, as I talk, if people are making $1 million there. So I think gradually with time and with generations settling in, these sorts of returns in such short spans, it creates a specific mood set and expectation. And metals traditionally, mostly if you look at the last 50 years history of metals, it's been a long, steady run upwards or downwards and healthy, but then it's been a safe run. So, as I said, you have to divide your portfolio even if you're investing apart from non-stock areas and things like that. So that's how it works.
So there's also a demographic shift in the investor.
Obviously, obviously.
जी। और अब खबर अंतर्राष्ट्रीय वित्तीय सेवा केंद्र प्राधिकरण और भारतीय रिजर्व बैंक से जुड़ी हुई। अंतर्राष्ट्रीय वित्तीय सेवा केंद्र प्राधिकरण और भारतीय रिजर्व बैंक ने विनियमन और विनियमित कंपनियों की निगरानी के सहयोग के समझौता ज्ञापन पर हस्ताक्षर किए हैं। आधिकारिक विज्ञप्ति के अनुसार इस समझौते से तकनीकी सहयोग और सूचनाओं के आदान प्रदान में मदद मिलेगी। समझौते का उद्देश्य वित्तीय प्रणालियों की सुरक्षा और स्थिरता मजबूत करना है, जिससे व्यापार के विकास और आर्थिक वृद्धि के लिए सुचारू माहौल सुनिश्चित हो सके।
Jayanta Das, thank you so much for joining us
in the
studio. Thank you. And now, listeners, before we close, a reminder of the headlines. Key domestic indices witnessed modest gains. Sensex closes near the 62,000 mark. Nifty settles above 18,400 points. Gold prices hit 53,000 per 10-gram level for December contracts at NCX. And Brent crude prices rise to trade at $94 per barrel. And that's it in this edition of Market Mantra. For now, goodbye.
Market Mantra. Market Mantra.